However, this is a blatant indication that Prince Harry isn't drawing the crowd they thought he would, and that they aren't selling the kinds of tickets they expected to. Has Meghan Markle's staff resumed their PR Pilates exercises? I believe so. However, as they continue to pursue what they were told not to, his father's disease is merely making things worse for them. And because it seems like the royal family has lost all control, I truly feel sorry for them. Meghan Markle isn't even taking solo photos over there. They paid $3,200 for one group photo and she says, "I'll do a group picture." All right, you must give it to Meghan. She has successfully infiltrated the Mexican community to begin disseminating information in her favor in an attempt to undermine us. Therefore, she is anything but persistent. Meghan and Harry are unable to abandon their royal responsibilities. King Charles, there are warning signs that this is an absolute cosplay royal trip. He once advocated for a huge $1 million fee per speech, and Harry and Meghan will do everything in their power to discredit the monarchy. Now take a peek at what's happening in Melbourne this week. The room appears to be half empty despite all the excitement, and tickets are hardly selling. This is the actual situation. After departing the British royal family, this individual demanded $1 million for each speech, and right now it's like, Meghan Markle has failed to sell 300 tickets. No, that's not going to happen for you, not when we've seen what you're capable of saying, and it's not much. Harry is currently in Australia as part of what his team refers to be a significant speaking tour, with a workplace mental health conference in Melbourne serving as the main event. On paper, it sounds impressive, a professional location, a 2-day schedule and an industry audience, but the data reveal a very different picture. These days, Prince Harry is viewed as a poster child for mental health competence. He is not a specialist in mental health. Anyone who openly discusses drug use in their autobiography is not a mental health professional at all. Talking about workplace mental health comes from a man who can't keep an employee to save his life. The cost of tickets fell, not just decreased. Initially priced at $2,400 was dropped to $2,000, then $1,000, and then reduced to just $500 for internet access. That's 4 distinct pricing reductions for a single speaker-centered event. One figure, $1 million, stands behind all of this and says it all. Yes, at first it was a 2-day summit with music that cost, I would estimate, about $2,400. There used to be a tier that cost $2,000, but out of desperation, they added another tier that costs $1,000 to attend in person. If you want to stream it online, you may do so for roughly $500. However, this is an obvious indication that they aren't selling the kinds of tickets they intended to. When Harry initially entered this room, that was the amount he wanted each speech. At the time, that number was extensively reported and was never explicitly refuted. Compare that to reports from Melbourne, where it is estimated to be around $50,000. From $1 million to $50,000, seats are still hard to come by. That isn't a strategy, it's not an adjustment. That is a huge decline, nearly 95% in a matter of years. Additionally, the audience is still not fully present despite all of those price reductions. However, Meghan Markle can't even manage her own businesses, so why would you spend thousands of pounds to hear her discuss business tips or how to live your best life? It's terrible, the jams, jellies, dog biscuits and everything else, it's hardly selling. It has been months since we last saw new products. The Netflix deal has collapsed. Therefore, I don't understand who is paying to have Meghan Markle give them business advice. This week, Kinsey Schofield stated quite clearly, Harry is not attracting the number of people his team had anticipated. That's not conjecture, ticket sales are a direct reflection of. The tone was established by the earlier incident in Washington. Expectations were high and seats cost $1,800. However, participants reported that uncertainty was the response. What the heck, as one summary put it, no thorough investigation, no definitive answers, no solid evidence, just the author's personal viewpoints presented to a paying audience. People expected more and paid premium money for. Melbourne is now following the same pattern. This isn't simply an isolated incident or poor timing, it's starting to become a noticeable pattern. Their initial concept was straightforward. Harry is receiving $50,000 for this speech. Additionally, they are cutting the costs because, as you mentioned, they are unable to sell the tickets. They are frantically attempting to virtually give away the tickets in order to spare Harry the humiliation of having to address an auditorium that is only half full, as far as we are aware. Present Harry as a valuable speaker who is on par with world leaders and reputable specialists. Such a high price tag necessitates authority, wisdom, and something genuinely musical, exceptional. However, it is now hard to disregard the important question. Is the content worth the price? Washington expressed skepticism. They're getting noisier in Melbourne. And this is precisely the point at which everything begins to crumble. It's becoming difficult to overlook the fact that every speaking engagement seems to follow the same pattern. Harry arrives, takes the stage, and talks about himself. Prince Harry doesn't draw the crowd that people thought he would. They cause more suffering wherever they go. Additionally, because Harry and Meghan's brand persona is so awful, the toxicity simply spreads wherever they come into contact. Here's the issue though, the crowd enters anticipating revelation. Genuine expertise, something they can use. Rather, what people receive seems less like a professional breakdown and more like a personal narrative. Every time this occurs, the subsequent reservation is made at a lower price than the previous one. 4 rounds of price reductions from $1 million to $50,000 and still empty seats. That is a distinct orientation that is only going in one direction. It is not a brief decline. Refer to it as the $1 million gap. That's the discrepancy between what is currently being paid and what was previously anticipated. A 95% decline in a matter of years is enormous. What the heck was the audience's response? I believe those tickets were $1,800 to sit and hear a wealthy man bemoan his upbringing in a castle. Here's the true twist though. Tickets were still difficult to sell at all price points, even at $50,000. This implies that the actual demand may be even less than the agreed-upon price. Next, the section that truly causes people to pause and reflect. The individual discussing workplace mental health has witnessed a consistent exodus of employees from his own business. About 25 employees have reportedly left since 2020. That is a significant figure that begs important questions. Staff departures, a big decline in speaking fees, and venues that still aren't filling up. Nevertheless, occupational well-being is the subject of discussion on stage. It is difficult to ignore the difference. Who exactly is this message for, they wonder. Now take a look back at what some refer to as the DC precedent. He is attempting to sell tickets to an event that is so dull that no one wants to go. In the meanwhile, she is charging over $3,000 per selfie in a Sydney hotel. These two have fallen so far that it's embarrassing, isn't it? Each seat cost $1,800. There were huge expectations. Reactions, however, indicated that the price was not commensurate with the content. No systematic solutions, no in-depth study, just individual opinions presented to a room full of paying guests. This is the crucial point. This was not surprising. The format has been the same for each occasion. Every time, the emphasis is on the individual's experience rather than in-depth research or data-heavy presentations. As a result, the true question becomes more pressing. What are organizers really promising if people are paying for expertise but getting something else? When these events are scheduled, however, it hasn't worked and isn't working for Harry and Meghan. They keep doing the same things in the hopes that they will make things better, but it isn't working and hasn't for a very long time. And all of this has an additional layer. There are rumors that Meghan is planning to create a private members club location in Australia connected to Soho House, an exclusive application-based network, while one side is referring to partially filled rooms. The contrast makes stand out. They left one of the most prestigious organizations in the world, which is frequently characterized as being extremely exclusive and regimented, only to be associated with another type of elite circle. They anticipate a large number of people, so they will need to set up railings and manage the crowd. Not at all. I don't think the few people who might show up to see Harry and Meghan will have anything positive to say about them. It will just be a few jeers here and there. people are undoubtedly paying attention to, as seen by the transition from international stages to private clubs. This is where things get even more intense because it's now about perception rather than just ticket costs and empty rooms. People's current perceptions don't seem to align with the image that was previously being constructed. At one point, there was a clear push for a high-value speaker who was positioned beside world leaders and provided unique insights. That was what was anticipated. However, the response is now changing and becoming more intense. The same comments keep coming up, event after event. People leave with doubts about what they just heard after entering with expectations of depth, organization, and genuine advice. When Harry took the stage in Washington, D.C., he bemoaned the lack of privacy he had experienced since birth. Didn't provide any answers. For the audience to see, it was just another mental breakdown, and since all you bring is bad luck, many people in Washington, D.C. were dissatisfied that they had spent so much money. I believe it was $1,800 for those tickets. You only contribute rudeness. Everywhere you go, all you bring is toxicity. Some guests allegedly responded bluntly, stating things like, "That wasn't what I expected," and "Where was the actual advice?" Music is a word that sticks and spreads quickly. This is where it becomes awkward. Reputation advances more quickly than marketing in the speaking world. One unimpressive incident can be explained away. However, a pattern is considerably more difficult to overlook. Organizers begin to take note. The audience begins to hesitate. Instead of hurrying in, ticket buyers begin to wait. Abruptly, the urgency vanishes. The enthusiasm that once drove up prices is gradually waning. Credibility is the next more important question, because when an individual is positioned as an authority, the anticipation is straightforward: bring something worthwhile, something useful, something that makes people better. Without it, the model as a whole begins to break, and that fissure is currently widening. Therefore, I would advise all women to invest the money. All right, enjoy your time at home and accept the money. Don't spend hundreds of dollars listening to Meghan Markle pretend to be a female founder while sitting in this cheap fluorescent lighting. She only discovered a wealthy and well-known spouse. Music reservations are still possible. It is still possible to schedule events. However, there is a distinct aura surrounding them. More skepticism, less buzz; more reluctance, less demand. These days, it's more than simply one speech or one city. It has to do with momentum and whether it is advancing or receding. And if this trend keeps up, the next chapter may involve more than just cheaper tickets or smaller audiences. It might have to do with if the stage itself begins to vanish. The question becomes much more pointed today: was this the update they were hoping for? Or is this what was left over after everything else collapsed? Take a look at this comparison. It speaks for itself. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, based her early childhood project on real study. Information was gathered, research was published. Additionally, the results were freely disseminated. She has structure when she speaks, serves a function. Additionally, there's something tangible that viewers may utilize at home. She is not self-centered. The work speaks for itself. Now contrast it with Melbourne. Rob Shooter had informed me that Meghan would be opening a Soho house there in secret and that she would wait until the very last minute to make an announcement. Additionally, the Daily Mail has reported the same issue in recent days. A rumored $50,000 appearance, several price reductions for tickets, and an unfilled room. Before taking the stage, there was no pre-announced research, no data preview, and no clear structure. That distinction is immediately noticeable. While one side creates stuff, the other makes appearances. Additionally, the market is responding in real time to that disparity. This is where things become even more intriguing, though. The situation has not received a clear answer. There is no justification for the frequent decreases in ticket prices. There is no thorough preview of what will be given in order to support the remaining expense. No response to the criticism, just quiet. And you can hear the silence. This is the same type of team that has responded swiftly under pressure in the past. Narratives were questioned very immediately, statements were made quickly, and reactions were astute. But as of right now, has nothing to say about costs, attendance, or audience responses. At this moment, begins to convey a lot through stillness. You know, you have to submit a request to join this exclusive secret club. Monthly payments are required to go to a Soho house and cut ribbons with the most aristocratic members of the British royal family. What a fall from grace, I apologize. It was a bold statement in the original song. The objective was to go outside and accomplish more, reach farther, and have a bigger influence. The promise was that, let's fast forward to the present, a venue that isn't packed, no clearly defined expertise shown up front, and ticket costs that have been slashed time and again. A fraction of the $1 million that was anticipated, the platform still exists, but its usefulness is being called into doubt more than before. As all of this is going on, there are reports of distinct appearances and unique experiences taking place elsewhere, which adds another level of complexity to the narrative. The public's response to is entirely different, despite having the same name and prominence. The change is evident from high expectations to unclear results. Since this journey is still ongoing, people are paying close attention. No matter how big the music is, it won't be silent for very long when the next crowd arrives. And just when you think things can't get any more intense, they do, because what takes place inside the room is now the main emphasis. I believe Catherine's previous endeavor is a fantastic illustration of that. Every now and again, the research she produced for that subject will be made public, not the headlines, not the cost, not the conjecture, but the real moment the speaker takes the stage and delivers. Everything is decided there. Everything about, including positioning, promotion, and expectations, boils down to one thing: what is the real experience of the audience? Here's where the pressure really gets to you. These days, people don't just show up carelessly. They enter with doubts, questions, and expectations fashioned by what they've already heard. Some are interested, some are doubtful, and some are waiting to see if this is the time when things start to improve. Because this is a tipping point, let's face it. The story can change quickly if the message resonates, the material lands, and something genuine and helpful is conveyed. People are starting to realize that he might not be an expert on all of these topics, and do we really want to shell out so much cash to hear an adult man cry? One powerful performance has the power to alter perspective, rekindle interest, and restore momentum. However, that response won't remain in the room if the same pattern is repeated and the audience leaves the music feeling that they didn't get what they came for. It spreads quickly, and that kind of criticism spreads quickly in the world of today. A single comment turns into 10. 10 turns becomes hundreds, and all of a sudden their responses form the entire narrative. The true danger here is that because is now about proof rather than potential, not what might occur but what does occur when it counts most. Additionally, the stakes are higher than before. Everything about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's return to Australia is going horribly wrong. They haven't even left the continent of North America yet it is already an incredible train wreck. Every instant and every point on that stage is being seen, evaluated, and recalled, because this isn't simply another speaking engagement at this time. This is a test. A test of value, a test of credibility, and an assessment of the audience's continued belief that the event is worthwhile. After that point, it cannot be edited, rewritten, or revised. The narrative is based on what transpires on that stage. Now everything hinges on what transpires following the event. Because the true influence manifests itself there. Not the headlines, not the music, not the prices, not the promos. To depart from the ultimate, top members of the British royal family to visit a Soho house to cut ribbons. What a fall from grace, I apologize. It's the subsequent response. The chats people have on their way out. Posts that begin to rise. The texts that participants exchanged. The truth begins to emerge at that point. Since people converse, they contrast their notes. They have similar viewpoints. When something falls short of expectations, they also don't hold back. If the experience is worthwhile and the energy spreads quickly. However, spreads even more quickly if it doesn't. And that's the risk that's currently in the spotlight. Since this isn't occurring in a vacuum. Every event develops upon the previous musical one. Another layer is added with each reaction. And those layers eventually develop into a reputation that is difficult to alter. She has never been an advocate for women. What was the Queen doing on her deathbed? She was interviewing Oprah. She was doing interviews with Oprah, accusing her in-laws of racism and claiming that they made her unhappy and despondent. The Her Best Life retreat is the name given to this. That's how momentum operates. It either develops or disintegrates. Here's the crucial information. Value in this field is not determined by titles or prior recognition. The audience makes the decision in real time. They are the ones who determine whether something is worthwhile, effective, and worthy of being suggested to others. No viewers. Lack of momentums. No demand, no strong response. It's that straightforward and straightforward. All eyes are now on what will happen next. Will the response change the story? Will people say it was better than they expected after they leave? Or will the same issues recur repeatedly? Because promises are no longer relevant at this point. It's about results. And results give direction. As of right now is still evolving in real time, with each new occurrence contributing to the larger image. Furthermore, the discussion won't be limited to one tour or one appearance if the response doesn't change quickly. It might begin to redefine the whole future course. When the audience begins to make the final decision, things can change that fast. Please share your ideas in the comments section. What are your thoughts? Click subscribe and check back for more in-depth analyses like this one if this breakdown opened your eyes. Remember to hit the like and share buttons with a person who must see it.